Mr. Blue, we're so pleased to be with you.
Hello, one of my patrons, Mouse, was hosting a StoneClan map. It's not really the kind of thing that I ever expected to happen with StoneClan, mostly because StoneClan is just, Patreon supporters sending random voice clips and then me trying to make something out of it. So of course I joined. These characters are actually in StickClan, the rival clan to StoneClan, because they're the characters that I actually have any, real agency over. When it comes to the actual StoneClan cats, everything they do and everything they experience is based on voice lines that people send. So while the only real StoneClan cat in this map part is Wolfwing, as Wolf Kit, it's so far before whatever the actor would be doing with their character, it doesn't really matter. So I went with StickClan cats because they're cats that I actually have any control over. I could have used plants, like Doofer and Barkclaw and other characters that I just voice myself whenever I need a line and can't find anyone saying it. But that would be boring, and I have basically zero interest in any of those plant characters. They're literally just there to say anything I need them to say. Although it's funny, if on the Patreon I say, oh, I hate Doofer, or Doofer is boring, people are like, no, I love Doofer, I'm Doofer's biggest fan. So there are probably huge Doofer fans that are lying, who felt very disappointed by the fact that I chose to do StickClan cats. I also thought it would be funny to display Tinytail in a positive light, because every time I display Tinytail in a positive light, it makes like 10 people scream, and that's really funny. I think the more overblown the reaction is, the negative reaction to something in StoneClan, the funnier I think it is, which is probably a really, really bad combination. Anyways, I joined with a vague idea as to what I was going to do, but foolishly I asked for any untaken part at all, and then I hit the only lyric that wouldn't have matched with my original idea. The first thing that you might notice is that this was in 3D. I've been dabbling in 3D stuff for a few years now, but not in any concentrated, practice-y way. Additionally, I should tell the secret that the song being used, Mr. Blue Sky, is actually Poison because it used to play on the radio in the store where I worked constantly. I know it's very popular with the kids, but all I can associate it with is long days working in retail. But I wanted to join anyways, and no song will ever stop me. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to upload this properly without like some sort of revenue sharing BS showing up, so it may not even have the proper lyrics. Maybe I'll voice them out, maybe I'll be like, hey there, Mr. Blue, we're so glad to be with you. And then you'll know what they're saying, but I'm pretty sure that if it's under 15 seconds, you're supposed to be able to use it. I don't know, we'll see what YouTube does to me. But overall, this was all just, thrown together. These cat models themselves are about a year old, maybe even a little more, and it shows. They're, not rigged or weight painted well at all. In fact, they're kind of a nightmare in that aspect. If you move them too far in any direction, they deform in ways, like their stomach goes inwards and concave and whatnot. You'll notice also that the pull bones for the inverse kinematics are on backwards for how a cat should move, and that certainly does not help. I probably could have rigged these guys again and weight painted them properly in the time that I was given, but I was not feeling it with this model being so old. For the first part, this thing, Wolf Kit, is just the same model as Tinytail and isn't even edited aside from me slapping some of the fur on the tail and face. And maybe accidentally moving the teeth and the eyes too far back into the face? I've been thinking about that, and I have no idea if I did or not. It might have just been me making the model bigger or smaller that did this. And you might go, what do you mean Tinytail doesn't have a tail? How could you edit that tail into Wolfkit's tail? And the truth is, it's actually Wolfkit's tail that's normal. I shrunk the tail from the original base model for Tinytail. Funny enough, I made the feathery planes on it after, and they grow when returned to normal size. To a size that I never made them at. I just shrunk it. I didn't even chop it off or anything. I do the same to one of the cats later just to make the tail a bit shorter, and if you see the skeleton on that and also the way that that tail moves, it's very, very awkward and broken looking. So I took the model I was using for Tinytail and I made the head and feet and ears and nose bigger, and that was it. And you can definitely tell. As when the thing deforms, it makes creases in their neck. Likewise, they are totally broken in the part itself, both in movement and appearance. It was too late to fix once I was done, because I had been looking at it from the same angle the entire time. This is because at some point in the animation process, I dragged their body out of their skeleton a little bit, and then didn't notice I had. When I finally moved the camera around, I had to face the fact that their eyes were bulging out of their head, and I did kind of fix that in post, but not anything else. I told friends that I was going to edit the colors here, and that I was going to make Tiny Tail move a little bit more, but I didn't. I ended up really bogging down this file with some tree tutorial I did improperly, and probably all of that grass everywhere, and couldn't get the playback to be smooth anymore. Like, I couldn't even really see what was happening, even in viewport display. I probably could have fixed this with something viewport display, but I just was so tired at that point and wanted to move on to the next part. Well, the next half of the part. Overall, though, this took a lot less time than it would for me personally, to traditionally animate. But part of that is really just that I reused old cat models. Or maybe not. I kind of wonder, had I not used ancient cat models and instead made new ones, if I would have gotten, this done a whole lot faster afterwards, because I could actually, say, move a leg without breaking every single bone in the cat's body. So much time was wasted trying to move in tiny, specific ways without the character exploding. With both parts, I published them as image sequences, then imported those image sequences to After Effects. I really didn't like how obvious Wolfkit's fluffy tail was in the first part, and didn't want to bother fixing it in Blender, so I painfully put a blur mask over the inside of it frame by frame. Then I noticed like 7 other things that were wrong with them, like the cheek fluff sticking out weirdly, and I put blur masks over those too. Didn't bother doing this on the second part, even though their tail was definitely still over detailed, seeing as there's just so much going on that I wasn't about to draw any focus to it. Speaking of their tails though, I didn't learn to make them wiggle and sway properly until the second part either. Oops. While I've done a lot of manually animating for like cycling movements in Blender for quite a while now, aside from inverse kinematics, I haven't really messed with most automatic motions, so yeah, it took me until now to learn to use bendy bones. Oops. You'll also notice that the ears on the characters are basically floating off their heads at any given time. That's because they suck and their weight painting sucks, so it was either that or make it so that the ears don't move or break the model a bunch. Something else that I haven't really done in Blender is lip sync, so I thought it was going to be really annoying to set up, but as it turns out it was actually just really easy with shape keys, kind of. I made shape key sounds and expressions on the first model and then didn't bother fixing or adjusting them when I made these guys out of him, so squishing around and messing with these other models I did really messed up the expressions I made. Some of them naturally don't even have a closed mouth in a neutral state. To be lazy, I made it so that their shape keys can go into the negatives, and that's how they close their mouths. Yeah, that works. But overall, it was actually genuinely fast to lip sync all 5 of these characters to the same thing. Not as fast as my hacky copy-paste method in Flash, but close enough that it wasn't tedious. That said, this was only, 5 seconds of lip sync? So maybe I'll try making something longer sometime and seeing if it absolutely kills me. These guys in the background also move a bit better and don't explode as much as the Tiny Tail does. It's because while I was working on them, I moved some of their bones around and then reapplied automatic weights. Automatic weights are my enemy, but I didn't want to bother fixing the weight painting again. So their spines are closer to the center of their bodies, and their legs don't pull on their back legs, and other fun things that aren't from hell. They do still deform terribly when moving their front legs around, and become concave and other fun stuff. I did have a good time twisting the model that I had into what appears to be more unique characters. I wasn't really, I don't think that I went into making this model thinking, oh, I'm going to make this into a whole bunch of other cats, but I had a lot of fun with it. Mousehawk ended up being the most unique looking, but her forehead was so tall that I had to draw on eyebrows just to make myself feel better. 3D stuff is fun. I suck at it, really, so it's hard to feel comfortable showing people what I've done or made, but I have a good time making stuff in Blender. What I need to do is get really confident in mass-producing a whole bunch of 3D junk constantly. You guys will watch my 3D junk, right? I'll put cats in it, after I make some new cats who don't suck and don't break every bone in their body.